The Fever had that one. The Fever had that game, man. They had it in the bag. They were in control. They had it. They had it. They had it. They just forgot how to play basketball.
Another video, and I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people to blame for this loss.
Indiana Fever fans are losing it tonight. The game was winnable, the Aces looked shaky, and yet somehow the Fever looked like they were sabotaging themselves. And all fingers? They're pointing straight at Stephanie White. Bad rotations, missed free throws, no point guard presence. It's all piling up. But is this just bad coaching or something much worse? Here's a question for you. Do you think Stephanie White is holding this team back on purpose? Comment your thoughts down below. Let's start with the collapse, because that's where the blood pressure of Fever fans spiked through the roof.
They had the game won. They made 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, and they were both in garbage time. They went 9 minutes without a field goal. 9 minutes without a field goal, and shout out Lexi Hull for finally scoring one. Kelsey Mitchell took 26 shots for 0 assists.
This game wasn't out of reach. For most of the night, Indiana had a chance. They rebounded better, they hustled harder in spurts, and Vegas wasn't even playing their best basketball. Aja Wilson was having what people are calling an off night. 13 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. That's not MVP level, not even close. And when your opponent's superstar is stumbling, that's when you pounce. That's when you steal one. But the Fever? They flopped harder than Wilson's acting on defense.
All W first team hasn't been exceptional in the playoffs. She was bad today. She was real bad today. Aerial Powers, look, I love her effort. Aerial Powers lost us that game. That is when the game ended. Like, there is 10 seconds to go in the third quarter, and Aaliyah Boston is standing wide open under the basket. Aerial Powers did not pass her the ball. And then Powers takes like 3-4 dribbles. Aaliyah's still wide open. And then eventually when she gets the ball to Aaliyah, it's a 3-second call. And then for some reason, Aerial Powers decides to front Jackie Young with 3 seconds to go, full court, and let Jackie Young run in a wide open layup. Suddenly, it goes from us being up 1 going into the fourth to down 3.
Here's the stat that stings. Indiana grabbed 39 rebounds with 16 on the offensive glass. That's the kind of stat line you expect from a team that closes out a game. Instead, they wasted it. Why? Because they went 25 for 72 from the field. That's 34%. Throw in a pathetic 7 for 23 from deep, and the result is simple. You hand the game away brick by brick. And don't even get me started on the free throws. 13 for 21. That's 62%. This isn't high school. This isn't AAU. This is the WNBA. Free throws are supposed to be the one thing you can count on. If you're a professional basketball player, free throws are your rent money. You show up, you cash in, no excuses. But Kelsey Mitchell? She looked like she'd never seen a rim before, missed one after another, and you could see the air leave the building every single time.
Steph, close game late in the third, and then you guys really stalled on the offensive end. What did you see that they were doing or that you guys were not doing well enough to keep up and score in that stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we got a lot of good shots. Didn't make a lot of them. You know, we missed some opportunities at the free throw line, and then we got a little stagnant. You know, we were still in a good spot because we were getting stops until about middle of the fourth, and they went on that run. But look, I thought our energy was good. I thought our competitive spirit was good. At the end of the day, you know, you just look at the field goal mix and the free throw mix, and you know, it's a different ball game. And you know, Vegas is.
Now let's talk about coaching, because fans are roasting Stephanie White for this disaster, and honestly, she earned it. Rotations were a mess. Natasha Howard gave them 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 0 life. Yet somehow she played long stretches like she was prime Candace Parker. Odyssey Sims looked lost, turning the ball over, looking hesitant, and not pushing the tempo. Did White pull her quickly? Nope. She left her out there, letting Vegas build momentum. Meanwhile, Lexi Hull was fighting through pain, dropping a double-double, diving for loose balls, playing like her leg didn't matter. Did White feed her more opportunities? Nope. It's like the toughest player on the roster was invisible to her coach. And that's where fans are screaming sabotage. Because when the players who give you everything get sidelined in favor of those mailing it in, it doesn't look like strategy. It looks like someone deliberately tanking the vibe. Vegas didn't even win this with dominance. They won because Indiana handed it to them on a silver platter. Jackie Young dropped 25 points and Chelsea Gray chipped in. But it wasn't a beatdown. It was Indiana running into a wall of their own making. The turnover battle? Both teams had 15. That should mean it's even. But Indiana's turnovers came at the worst times. Momentum-killing mistakes that you could feel in the arena. That's not just players being sloppy, that's a team without direction. And where does direction come from? Coaching. This is where the conspiracy starts bubbling. Fans are looking at Stephanie White and saying, she doesn't want Caitlin Clark back. Why? Because Clark changes everything. Clark forces the system to run through her. She forces the ball to move differently. She demands that the team's entire identity be built around her playmaking. And White? She doesn't want that. Think about it. Clark's injury timeline suggested she could be back by now. We've seen players return from groin injuries in similar or even shorter stretches. But the Fever have kept her sidelined. Not ready yet. Still recovering. Over and over. And fans aren't buying it. They're connecting the dots. White has convinced the front office that Indiana is better without Clark. That the offense flows better when it doesn't revolve around one player. Except here's the reality check. They're not better. They're not winning. They're losing in embarrassing fashion while Clark sits and watches. The whole "we play better without her" excuse collapsed the moment Vegas, on a bad night, still walked away with a double-digit win. Now, let's compare coaching philosophies. Look at Becky Hammond. She doesn't hide her stars. She doesn't try to clip their wings. She lets A'ja Wilson play through mistakes while still holding the team accountable. That balance is why Vegas wins. Stephanie White. She looks terrified of letting Clark back in and taking control. Instead, she'd rather run her system with role players. It's safe, it's predictable, and it's losing. This isn't just about X's and O's, it's about identity. Caitlin Clark is in her second year now, not some rookie learning the ropes. She's the face of the WNBA, whether the vets like it or not. She's the reason arenas sell out, why TV ratings spike, why casual fans tune in. And somehow her own coach is acting like the Fever are better off without her. That's not just bad basketball, it's franchise suicide. Let's not forget the locker room dynamics. Lexi Hull has proven she's the warrior of this squad. She's tough, unselfish, and relentless. And yet, she's not being utilized the way she should. Natasha Howard? Invisible? Sims? Lost? Ariel Powers? Showed flashes in 11 minutes but never trusted with more. Kelsey Mitchell? Dropped 21 but went missing when it mattered most. That's not on the players alone, that's a coach who doesn't know how to push the right buttons. And here's the kicker. Fans believe Stephanie White has told the front office something like this. If Caitlin comes back now, we'll have to change everything. We'll lose our flow. We'll collapse, and management bought it. They let Clark sit while the team crumbled without her. That's not just questionable. That's sabotage, plain and simple.
A'ja's not going to have two stinkers in a row. I feel like the Aces didn't even really play well tonight. They kind of handed the Fever that game, and the Fever kind of blew it, which makes me so sad. Obviously, you can never count out this Fever team because of what they accomplished, but now they have a very tough task if they want to make it to the finals. They have to win one game at home, and then they have to go back to Vegas and try to win a Game 5 where it's both teams win or go home. And honestly, that's a super tough task going up a team like the Aces with a coach like Becky Hammond, a two-time WNBA champion, who also coached in the NBA before coming to the WNBA. Like, it feels like she's already changed up the defense quite a bit, and it's really disrupted the Fever offense. It's just not looking good, and I feel like this was the game. This was the Fever's game. A'ja had 3 points until the end of the third quarter. She's not going to do that again. Nalissa Smith and Jackie Young cooked them. A lot of missed free throws and a lot of missed layups.
Let's zoom in on the elephant in the room. Caitlin Clark's absence has completely exposed Stephanie White's so-called system. Without Clark, the Fever are basically a team running around hoping Kelsey Mitchell bails them out. And don't get me wrong, Mitchell has had her moments, but when the Aces know she's the only true offensive engine, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Clamp her, make the others beat you, and suddenly, Indiana looks like a G League team cosplaying as contenders. Clark's presence changes that math entirely. Defenses have to extend out to the logo, double-team off-ball screens, and give up driving lanes because they're terrified of her range. With her, everyone eats. Without her, you saw it. Howard standing around, Sims throwing the ball into the fifth row, Boston forced into bad positions, and Hull breaking her back for rebounds that go nowhere. Here's where coaching really matters. A smart coach says, Clark is the system. She bends defenses, she dictates pace, she makes the entire league adjust. You build around that. You embrace it. Instead, White seems obsessed with proving she can win her way. And that obsession has turned the Fever into their own worst enemy. Now, let's talk about how other coaches handle stars. Becky Hammond? She lets Wilson be Wilson. Gino Auriemma at UCNNT? He handed Paige Buchers the keys from day one. Even Kim Mulkey, love her or hate her, knew Angel Reese had to be the centerpiece at LSU. They don't try to downplay their best players. They lean into them. Stephanie White? She's treating Clark like she's some optional luxury, like a sixth man you keep in your back pocket. It's laughable. And the fans see it. Social media lit up after this game. Fire Stephanie White was trending in Indiana WNBA circles. Clips of missed free throws were spliced with White looking clueless on the sideline. Memes popped up of her holding Clark back with captions like, "System first, win second." People aren't buying the excuses anymore. What makes this sting more is the timing. Clark is in year 2. This is supposed to be her leap year, where she shakes off the rookie narrative and establishes herself as the league's most dangerous guard. Instead, the headlines are about whether her coach is sabotaging her return. That's insane. The WNBA has been begging for a face of the league. They finally have one, and her own franchise can't figure out how to handle it. Let's go deeper into the so-called sabotage theory. The argument goes like this. Stephanie White knows if Clark comes back and runs the show, her own coaching style becomes irrelevant. She'll be exposed as someone who can't manage star power, can't adapt, and can't build a modern offense. So, instead of embracing the inevitable, she's allegedly convinced management that Clark isn't ready. Keep her on the shelf, ride the team game narrative, protect her own job. It sounds wild, but the evidence piles up. Clark's recovery timeline lined up perfectly with the playoffs. Fans saw her at shoot-arounds, taking light shots, looking mobile. She wasn't limping around in a boot. She wasn't bedridden. She looked close. And yet, every update was the same. She's progressing, but not ready. Convenient. Too convenient. Meanwhile, Indiana kept losing in predictable fashion. White's offense stalled, role players looked lost, and Vegas didn't even need peak Wilson to dismantle them. If you're ownership, you can't look at that and say, yeah, this is working. You look at that and ask, where's Caitlin Clark? And when the answer keeps circling back to the coach, fans start connecting dots. Now, some defenders of White will say, she's cautious. She doesn't want to risk Clark's long-term health fair point until you remember this is the playoffs. This is the moment you live for. If your franchise player is cleared and wants to play, you let her play. Period. That's what competitors do. And Clark, she's the most competitive player in the league. You think she's sitting out by choice? Please. She'd tape her own groin together and limp onto the floor if she had the option. The truth is, White is a pragmatic, risk-averse coach. That works when you're managing a roster of grinders, not when you're blessed with a generational scorer who thrives on risk. Clark's logo threes, no-look passes, and high-tempo drives aren't safe. They're disruptive. They're game-changing. And that's exactly why defenses crumble against her. By keeping her sidelined, White isn't just being cautious. She's neutering the very weapon that makes Indiana special. And that's why the backlash is so loud. Fans aren't dumb. They know free throws cost this game. They know the Fever had chances and blew them. But they also know this. With Clark on the floor, Vegas doesn't get away with a sloppy night. With Clark on the floor, the Aces panic when their MVP has a dud. With Clark on the floor, Indiana has a shot to win the series. Without her, they're toast. This leads us to the future. If the Fever bow out like this, with Clark sitting in street clothes while her team collapses, ownership has a decision to make. Do you double down on White's system and risk alienating the league's most marketable star? Or do you cut ties and find a coach who knows how to maximize Clark before it's too late? History says you pick the star. Coaches are replaceable. Generational players aren't. White might think she's protecting her system, but what she's really doing is fast-tracking her own pink slip. Because when Clark eventually voices her frustration, and you know that day is coming, the front office won't side with the coach. They'll side with the player who sells out arenas and carries the league's TV ratings. It's not just about Indiana. The whole WNBA is watching. Other teams are licking their chops, hoping the Fever implodes so they can make a play for Clark down the road. That's how valuable she is. You don't gamble with that kind of asset. And yet, White looks like she's doing exactly that, whether intentionally or through sheer stubbornness. The irony is brutal. Stephanie White was praised as Coach of the Year caliber not too long ago. People said she turned the Fever around, made them competitive again, gave them structure. And in some ways, that's true. But structure only gets you so far. At some point, you need to unleash your star. You need to let chaos work in your favor. And if White can't do that, then she's not the coach to take Indiana to a championship. She's the coach before the coach who does. That's why fans are calling this sabotage. Maybe it's not intentional, maybe it's ego, fear, or outdated philosophy, but the effect is the same. Clark is sidelined. The Fever are losing, and the fan base is furious. So where does this end? If Indiana crashes out, expect the noise to get deafening. Expect talk shows to rip White. Expect social media to demand answers. And expect Clark herself to eventually drop a subtle comment that lights the fuse. Because competitors don't sit quietly forever. And Clark is the ultimate competitor. The Fever have one choice if they want to avoid a full-blown meltdown. Put Clark at the center of everything. Build around her, trust her, and if White can't do it, then find someone who can. Because wasting her prime years with safe coaching isn't just bad strategy, it's sabotage. So there you have it. Stephanie White is officially in the hot seat, and Fever fans are done making excuses. The numbers don't lie, the eye test doesn't lie, and the conspiracy theories suddenly don't sound so crazy. Indiana has a generational star, and if her coach won't unleash her, somebody else will. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more breakdowns.